Welcome to this edition of Bison Talks Impact, where I talk all about impact, my favourite subject, and I'm honoured today to be joined by none other than the ultimate finesser, Chris Bey. All right, mate?
What's up? How's it doing? I love the hat.
You do? Well, that's because I'm probably one of the biggest impact fans there is, so I had to make sure I wear the hat, man. You know what I mean? Now, I know we've been working on getting this interview sorted for a few weeks now, and we had a little failure yesterday, but we managed to get it right. It was all my fault, by the way, everyone. It was all my fault. I got my time zones completely messed up, but we managed to sort it today. So thank you ever so much for bearing with me. I really appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Excellent. Brilliant. So first off, here we go. Obviously, I hope that you've been keeping yourself safe during lockdown. Maybe you can give us a little insight into what Chris Bey has been doing to keep himself fit, healthy, occupied and safe.
Well, the first things first is, cleanliness. We practice our hygiene for sure on this side. Yeah. It's always been something that's been a part of our daily routine. It's just being more so enforced now in public places, as we all know. You go places and everyone's wearing masks or gloves or these mandatory precautions.
Right.
It's an interesting time for me. It's more so just about staying mentally prepared for whatever's next or whatever is happening right now. I can't really go to the gym, but I have a friend who lives not far from me who has all the gym equipment we need in his garage. And once again, same thing where it's there, where we're cleaning all the equipment and making sure everything's, in between uses, everything is properly handled. Aside from that, man, honestly, just it's hard to stray away from diets during a time like this when it's almost easier to get on that right track because you're home so much more than often, so you can go buy your groceries and do all the things you need to do at home without having to go on the road or do this or do that or bench with fast food because you're on the road and stuff like that. So it kind of gives us all a chance to reset and just for wrestlers too, just relax and heal our body for a little bit.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, actually. I was thinking, what a good time it actually is for some of the guys to really sort of kind of rest up, get healed up and ready to rock and roll once obviously we're all back together again. And it'd be interesting to see, whether some of the guys that have possibly, been a little bit working through a little bit of injury or, a little bit of stiffness, etc., that, maybe having a couple of months off will make a massive difference to the way they perform once everybody all comes back. I think you're right. I think healing is one of those things that wrestlers probably struggle with a little bit because they just don't get that. They don't get that time, do you? Normally.
Exactly. Yeah. So for this, it's usually for me personally, I know the last couple of years, if there was maybe a maximum of 4 weekends out of the year where I didn't have a show. So now, aside from us taping for the Impact tapings, this is the most I've been home since I started training to wrestle and since I started wrestling in the first place. So in the last 4 years, this is the most that I've been home. So this is the first time that my body's actually been able to really stop and, process what I put it over the last couple of years. So it's good.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Okay. So let's talk about your debut appearance on Impact TV. Now that was back in March. It had been speculated for some time that that they had an eye on you. I mean, there was a lot of people I think had an eye on you at that time. Cody had obviously made a few references to you as well at that time. And of course, I know we'd seen you prior a couple of times in an Impact ring, but you weren't at that time. You weren't assigned, you weren't assigned talent. So, you weren't sort of kind of pushed as such, were you? But now, obviously, what we're seeing is that they obviously like what they saw. They've signed you to a contract, and now they're sort of kind of giving you a big push. How. What was it like that debut match? When you got there and you were like, right, I'm here now. How am I going to feel? What am I going to do? How am I going to prepare myself? What were going through your thoughts? What were you really doing at that time?
I think honestly, for me, it was just the beginning of the next chapter. I'm gonna be with Impact for a number of years. Uh, so for me, I just spent the last 3 years of my career chasing this on the pro wrestling indie scene, and so now for me, it's like the time that I just put in. Now I get to put that in at Impact, and I get to put that in under a television company and in front of a much larger audience, and conquer goals that I've set for myself uh, when I was younger through Impact and through TNA, whatever you want to call it. I
Yeah,
had a lot of unfinished businesses to say with the few times I came in and without signing the contract. So for me, once I signed the contract, it was more so just like that thought process of it's the beginning. Like I climbed this really tall ladder and I got to the top, and when I got to the top, there was another ladder. So it's just like okay, like I just assess things in that way because it's easier for me to focus on the task at hand, and it's
yeah,
easier for me to focus on the reality of things. And the reality is, no matter how popular I am, no matter who's talking about me on the pro wrestling circuit, I'm still the new guy on the roster, so I still have to earn my stripes, and I still have to do a lot of work in order to
yeah,
earn the respect of a lot of people, And I just kind of assess the scenario like that, and just knew that it's a lot of work to be done. So from the first moment that I did the match against Damian Drake, it was just about showing the world uh, who Chris Bey is, and you can't show them that in one performance. You can show them a level, and I've said it before that there's levels to this. There's levels to the art of finesse, and the greatest thing about what I think that I do is that I don't do the same thing, and I switch it up all the time. I'm constantly switching it up. That's something I learned on the indies from working with a lot of different talent from all over who did a lot of similar things to me, or
yeah,
when I'm wrestling people who are way larger than I am, and now I have to switch the game plan. And I've wrestled a lot of guys who are just way larger than I am. So for me, um, it was just about showing the world one level of what's possible. And I think through the 5 matches that I've had so far on our program, I think I've shown something different in every performance. And I think that's where my mindset is going into
yeah.
this whole situation.
Yeah, I think it's ever so important, I guess, as a professional a professional wrestler in general, being able to work with all different sizes, and of course now with the intergender stuff being quite at the forefront of what Impact especially are doing. Sorry, it's not intergender wrestling; it's just wrestling. But obviously, guys and girls wrestling together. You've got to be, I guess, extremely versatile, be able to work with all body types. And obviously, I'm generalizing there, meaning male and female as well as big and small.
Yes.
But all different body types, and of course, being able to master that art of protecting each other as well, haven't you? And
Yes.
that's important. That is
Yeah.
important in the business, right?
Yeah.
So um, it's interesting as well because obviously during the sort of kind of the time when you were looking to be signed, we knew that AEW had been looking at you. I'm not sure whether NXT or anything like that had been looking at, but I know that AEW were because Cody did say about that. And of course, Impact had obviously looked at you a couple of times, and I'm sure there have been ongoing discussions and maybe different contracts flying around or whatever. But in the end, what made you decide that Impact was the place for you?
It was a mixture of me feeling that um, I had unfinished business there, and it was also that combined with them actually having interest in me versus a tweet or or versus this is possible or this is something that could potentially happen down the line. I set goals
Yeah,
for myself and every year, and my goal of 2019 was to get signed. So the one thing that I wasn't gonna do for anybody was remove my goal,
yeah,
to please anyone else. So by before the year ended, I was talking to Impact about coming in there, and I had been kind of, knocking on the door for a long time leading up to that. So it was a mixture of the way that I was treated, from them in the process, and just my own personal goals, and then the team that we have and the whole roster that we have. I just am a firm believer in our product, and I think that it doesn't get a lot of the credit that it deserves. And I wanted to be a part of the reason why people start to give it that due credit again.
Yep.
Which is ironic because after watching, I started watching The Last Dance last night, and I saw that in the first episode, MJ was talking about, the rebuilding the Bulls, when he first got on the Bulls. And that's almost how I feel here, except for I'm not saying this is how MJ felt or anything, but I don't feel like our team sucked by any mean, before I got there. I just feel like I'm that new life, a resurgence. I call myself the now of professional wrestling. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how anyone else chooses to look at it. I think as far as the way the youth moves right now in the world, I feel like I have a good tap on that right now. I feel like I'm in a good age demographic to everybody that's going on right now, and I'm still in touch with things right now. So I feel like, and then also I can wrestle my ass off against anybody, and also understanding the entertainment aspect of it. So I feel like I am that star player for our team amongst a whole lot of stars already, but I'm like that resurgence of it, So I feel like with all those things mixed together, I just feel like I put myself in a good position to help out our team in the long run, and all of those things help me make that decision rather than go somewhere where people are already watching, or where, people, there's too many people on the roster to begin with and not everybody's getting an opportunity, or whatever the case is, what I didn't want to do for sure, and I knew I didn't want to do, was put myself in that type of situation.
Yeah, because it's difficult, isn't it? Because, I mean, if you go to a roster that is so stacked, it becomes very, very difficult to actually get yourself, in a prime position to shine. You probably find yourself every single week saying, look, come on, put me on, I can do this, let me show you what I can do, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Whereas I think, but you've probably sort of, by getting those almost, couple of matches under your belt, 2 or 3 matches under your belt before you're signing, you'd already sort of kind of shown them, in person exactly what it is that you can do. And I think, that probably made them a lot more, shall we say, aggressive in coming to get you, I guess, because they knew you, they'd met you, they knew your personality, they'd seen obviously what you can do in the ring, and that in turn, creates hunger to bring in a talent, doesn't it? So I think that's an important thing. I think Don and Don especially, and Scott D'Amore do a great job of bringing in some of the talents that are on the indie circuit at the moment. Of course, you've not been around that long either, though, have you? Because I was looking at some of your past stuff, and you've been around for about 3 years now, is it 3 or 4 years? So it's not. So you've come a long way in quite a short space of time. I mean, when you look at some of the guys on the roster, you've got guys like Ethan who've been wrestling for like 15 years and, busting their gut for quite a long time. So you're showing at quite a young age. It's a bit like Ace, really, Ace Austin as well, who's, shown at a young age that, he's hungry and he really, really wants it, and put your money on me kind of thing, and I think you're that sort of kind of, you're the next in line to come in that kind of vein, when they say, yeah, you're a young guy, you're hungry, you've got an amazing skill set, we really want to work with you, and I think that's great to see. So I'm really pleased you decided to pick Impact, because I get to see you every week, which is great. So that's good for me, and it's great for everybody else who's an Impact fan, so that's good. Now, what are you've already sort of touched on your thoughts on the Impact roster. But what I was going to say, basically, what were your thoughts on the roster, or, who do you think you would most like to have, a program of matches with? Who would be, like, on the current roster as it is at the moment, you feel you could have a real good program of matches with?
That's such a tough one, man, because I pride myself on my ability to work with anybody. And I chose Impact because I felt strongly about that as well. I had done a decent amount of work with guys like Trey Miguel and Rich Swann and Willie Mack and I'm sure there's more that are just slipping my mind right now. But I had wrestled a handful of people, Daga for sure. I had wrestled a handful of people prior and multiple times to being with Impact, so that I knew already what I was getting myself into because I seen the influx of other guys and other talent, and I think that I can just have a good program with anybody. Honestly, I don't think that there's a bad program that I see with anybody on our roster. I think that we're all so talented, and the best part about wrestling is blending characters. The contrast of characters, and I'm not like anybody else that we have. So anytime you put me in a story with anybody else, now you have some totally new scenario that we didn't see before, and it's honestly just a test to my creativity as well of how good I'm able to get the program over along with my correspondent. So I think that time will tell to these words that I'm saying now, but I think what we should focus on right now, as far as who I'm going to have a good program with or who I should have a good program with, there's a man who has exactly what I want, and you know that man very well because we just briefly spoke about this main event that just happened, and he has what I want. And if you want to talk about good television, I think you start with Chris Bey and Willie Mack. I think you start right there because as similar as we are as far as our sense of humor goes, in ring we're completely different. The way we look is completely different. The way we talk is completely different. And he has what I want. And if anything that I've done in my past has shown you, I get what I want when the time comes to fruition. So I don't care what I have to do to get there or whose toes I have to step on. I'm going to end this with having myself the Finesse Division Championship, and that's just the way it has to go. So I think that's where we start as far as who I'm going to have a great program with. We start right there. I'm not done with Willie. You've seen my face after the last episode. I'm not done. I'm not done. I need revenge.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I was going to go on and say that based on obviously your style, you're very quick in the ring. You've got a lot of stamina. So you've got good cardiovascular, high flying, high impact stuff. And funny enough, I actually thought Rich Swann, Trey Miguel, and I actually think Rohit Raju as well would be a fantastic program with it. It's interesting because I had an interview with Rohit last week, and we actually discussed you, and I said to him then that I actually think that you and him would be an incredible program of matches. I think at the moment it's very difficult for me because I'm a big fan of Rohit. I've been seeing him, and he's been, and I think he's starting to emerge now as a big talent, and I'm a big fan of yours. But I'd like to see both of you have a run at the X title. I really, really would. So it's difficult for me, but I think you guys would be good. Sorry, say that again.
Well, he can be first in line after I beat Willie.
Okay, fair enough. That's really cool. So that'd be cool. And again, Rich Swann, what an incredible talent Rich is. And I just think that again, the both of you tangling it up would just be one hell of a match. Yeah. So okay, so Willie is your man. Willie is the man you're after, and I don't blame you. He's got what you want. He's got what all those guys want. So it's good to see everyone's hungry, which is great. Now, I've actually put my next question here is that I would actually love to see you win the X Division Championship. That was obviously that could potentially lead to a shot at the world title picture. So do you think if you manage to gain the X Gold, you might consider option C?
I do. I have made it no secret that my plans here are to be the X Division champion and to be the world champion. It's something that I have to bring to full circle. That is a story that hasn't been done before. So I have to be the first of my kind. I pride myself on making these goals, like I said earlier, that are just they're personalized, and they are things that just to a normal person who doesn't believe in their dreams or never been told that they can chase their dreams, it doesn't seem feasible. But when you talk to me, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I was on YouTube doing videos, unboxing the TNA World Championship. So for me to bring that full circle and to be the Impact World Champion when you fast forward is a story that has not been told yet, and I need to be the first to tell it. So 100%, I would consider option C. I mean, what do you think the C would stand for? It would stand for Chris Bey. It would stand for that. It would,
Of course. Option Chris.
At this point, we would just have to rename it Option Me, because that's just what it is. I need the X Division Championship because the greats have held the X Division Championship as well as the world title. I need the X Division Championship because when I think of the X Division Championship, I think of the first thing I saw at Impact Wrestling, the first thing that caught my eye and made me want to tune in to Spike TV. That for me is the one that first drew me. It wasn't the NWA World Championship, and it wasn't until Kurt Angle came over and then the TNA World Championship was made. It wasn't until that where I kind of started to care about the world title. But until all the way until then, it was the X Division for sure for me. So for me, I need that for my own personal reasons. I need that for all of us, so we can all see that it's possible, no matter how much of a jerk you are, no matter how much of a good person you are, no matter how good you are, whatever, no matter how many people tell you can't, it's possible. And when I'm done, I will also have the world championship. I'll have them both at the same time. I'll swap them out. I will wear them like sneakers and wear my good shoes on my. I will keep them in rotation. I feel like all the gold just belongs to me, and that's just how I feel.
Fantastic. I love it. Now, at Rebellion Part 2, we saw an incredible four-way between you, Suicide, and Trey. And I must be honest, for me, this was the best match of the night. And I think many of the fans would agree with that. I think you guys absolutely pulled it out of the bag. One of the highlights of the match, obviously apart from you winning, of course, I was basically what was the social distancing like at the taping? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, apart from obviously you being there and winning the match, what was it like being at that taping? Based on the fact that you've got the social distances stuff going on, what was the process that you went through?
It was very different. I think it was to the best of our ability to keep everything as under wraps and as safe for all the talent as possible. We did everything in stations, so there wasn't everybody in the building at one time. There would be rotations and time slots of when we'd come in for whichever segments or whatever the case was. And when we came in, we were all, our temperature was checked, and we had medical personnel on standby, and the ring and all the equipment was cleaned in between each segment, and we'd take however long the breaks were in between each segments to sanitize everything. And whenever you were done, you can leave back because you don't want everybody in the building at one time. We want to minimize the risk of anything. So it was definitely different, but I like the way they did it, and I felt safe the whole time. And I think that's most important when you have a product like that you're trying to still do at a time like this. I think it's most important that your athletes and your performers feel safe, which we were all given the option to perform, so no one was forced to perform or anything like that. But there's still always that, thought in your mind with everything that's going on. So it was nice to know that every day I came in, I was taken care of, and I felt
you've been looked after.
Yes. So for that, I can't thank Impact enough.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Fantastic. That's really good to hear, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you guys are safe and you don't end up obviously getting illness or anything like that, so that you're ready to continue giving us what we love. Now, once we are out of this, obviously this crazy situation that with unprecedented times that we've never been in before, what do you think the future holds for the Ultimate Finesse and Impact Wrestling? Obviously,
Um,
we've talked about the X Division, possibly World Championship. Is there anything that you would ultimately, want to achieve in the time that you're there? You said you're going to be there for multiple years, so
yeah, I think it's all about what I leave behind. So I have these goals, the championships and main eventing pay-per-views and being the top guy, but I think all in all, it's about what I leave behind and what people remember. I need to make sure that when I'm gone, it's not just, Chris Bey was at Impact Wrestling. I need there to be moments that identify with these type of things. Like
yeah,
when say a Kurt Angle showed up, or when he dove off the stage far as hell onto was it Abyss,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
or when what is it, Elix Skipper did the walking run off the top of
that's
the
right.
I need moments. I need moments that last the test of time, because that's what people remember when this is all said and done. The moments that make people feel, the moments that, because that's why we all got into this in the first place. It was a certain moment that we felt that made us connect and made us tune in the next week, or whatever the case is. I need people to have that from what I do, and if I haven't done that when my time is up, then I haven't done my job.
So we definitely need to be expecting a serious main event at Bang for Glory, smashing it, giving us big memories,
Big.
something that we're never going to forget, and always be going, man, do you remember that? Where were you when Chris Bey, did the ultimate, whatever it was that you're going to do?
Finesse.
That's it, the ultimate finesse. Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah.
And I think it would be, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So you can't disappoint us now. It's got to happen now. No matter what, it's got to happen.
Yeah.
So, and finally, do you have a message you would like to pass on for the wrestling or Impact fans who are also currently in lockdown at the moment? Do you have anything to say to the fans?
Yes. Use this time to be creative. Use this time to educate yourself on things that you may have not had the time to before, whether that's something that's going on in our current world, and because you can't believe everything the media says. So you have to do your own research, and you have to see what's out there for yourself, because a lot of things are being told to us. And we have to do a lot of this footwork ourselves. So make sure you guys are utilizing this time not only to just better yourself and your communities, but just better your the way you think going forward. This is a lot of time that couldn't be used to better your health, to spend time with your family if you don't normally get to see family. This is just a real, as much as it can be, and as much as it is, a terrible thing that we're going through. We have to look at anything for the positives that are being given, and
Totally.
and that's just the way I try to live my life. Like, for example, this sucks, and I just signed with Impact, and I was on this crazy rise, and then now fortunately I'm on Impact, so I get to see still wrestle and be a part of what
Yeah.
people you see every week. There's three of us that are still on TV currently, so people have a very slim pickings right now of what's actually happening that's new product right now, rather than just stuff that happened already in the past with aired indie specials or IWTV and stuff like that. So I'm
Yeah.
fortunate to be a part of that current wave. But in my brain, I was, supposed to still be killing the indies right now and doing all these other things. But it's okay, because with that stuff not being there and me having this time at home, it's giving me a chance to watch stuff like The Last Dance and remind myself why I was such a fan of Michael Jordan. It's giving me a chance because I've been doing a lot of hiking, and I don't necessarily do a lot of hiking, so it's been giving me a lot of time to go out and free my mind and get different views and get to different points and look out and get inspired by different things. I'm just trying to utilize this time to give myself some knowledge, some clarity, get my sanity, and maximize this for what it is, because it's not going to last forever. And when it's over, things will not go back to normal. There is no more normal. There will be a new normal. So we have to make sure that we don't just sit this time by wasting it, and when it's all over, we're expecting normal to be a thing, and we can't. We have to expect the unexpected, prepare for the worst, pray for the best, and just maximize this time, because tomorrow's not promised for any of us.
No, exactly right. And I think you're right. They touched on something. Normal is never going to be the same. Whatever happens, our norm is going to be different. And you're right there. That's definitely a fact. That's for sure. Now, thank you for that, Chris. That's great. Do you want to let us all know where we can follow you on social media, where we can find you and check out your videos and all that kind of stuff?
So you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Dashing Chris Bey. That's B-E-Y, not B-A-E. I noticed what they think. They think it's B-A-E. It's always Bey. Okay, it's B-E-Y, Dashing Chris Bey. You can find me on YouTube at Chris Bey. It's my same channel that I've had since 2008. So even if you scroll far back, you'll find old videos of me with the Impact replica belts and all that good stuff, and and unboxing suicide posters and 8x10s, which is hilarious. Now fast forward to Rebellion, right? But you can and then you can find all my music and everything on all platforms. We're on Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, wherever you're at, YouTube, SoundCloud. I'm everywhere. So just search my name. Google, Sports Illustrated, avn.com. I'm literally everywhere at this point. So just search me up and I'm on there. And if you all ever have any questions that are that you think is a good question that's worth my time, I do respond to messages. So feel free to reach out to me too.
You definitely respond, that's for sure. So don't hesitate to check Chris out. He's great on Twitter, especially. And he's not afraid to speak his mind, and I really like that in a man. That's great. So I really appreciate that, because I'm sort of kind of in a similar vein. So I sort of kind of find I find it amusing to watch, shall we say. So I do like that, which is great. So thank you so much for joining me today on this edition of Bison Talks Impact. I'm really looking to see what the future has in store for you at Impact. That's pretty much where we're going. So well, that's it for today, and I hope you've enjoyed the discussion with my incredible guest, the ultimate Finesse, Chris Bey. If you want to know where to find Bison, I'm very active on Twitter at LordBison45, and you can also find me along with co-host The Joker giving character profiles on the Impacted via Total Nonstop Impact at We Talk Impact. So don't forget to pop over there. YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts, you will find me and the team and this interview with the man right now, Chris Bey. So take care, everybody, and until next time, it's goodbye from me, the Bison, and this was Bison Talks Impact with his special guest, Chris Bey.
Yeah.